Nyquist, and Claire, who have combined to make legendary films. In the current era, Tarsem Singh and Brendon Galvin are one such team. Their association dates back many years, and Dear Jussie is their latest collaboration. This session features a freewheeling conversation between Tarsem and Brendon on the nature of director-cinematographer collaboration. So with a big round of applause, please welcome Mr. Brendon Galvin and Mr. Tarsem Singh onto the stage. We are honored and delighted to have both of you with us today. Now, I would like to request Mr. Pankaj Saxena, Artistic Director IFFI, to please come on stage and felicitate the dignitaries.
Thank you. No, I'm good. Oh.
Thank you, sir. Before I leave, this is a quick reminder. We will be taking questions from the audience. So please keep your questions ready and raise your hand when prompted, and do pass on the microphone so that everyone gets a chance. Thank you. Now over to Mr. Tarsem Singh and Mr. Brendon Galvin to please initiate the session.
Thank you. So this is the first time you've done something like this. I actually usually go to a place and look at eyeballs and ask somebody, what do you want to know? And they go with that. Now I understand there's lots of film students here or aspiring filmmakers. Put your hands up. Okay, I'm here for you guys, okay? So I'm just going to generally talk for a second or two. I'd rather take a question and talk for 20 minutes, and we'll try to address it. He's the cameraman, and I'm the director. You can address him straight away, and you can go with me. So I know I'm supposed to speak about something, but I'll tell you what, let's break that rule. I have no boundaries, so if you're offended easily, please leave, or just cut me off. Ask any questions that you want, and they will be answered as truthfully as possible. That's the reason I don't have Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, because that would have probably been persona non gratified long ago. So, what do you guys want to know?
No, by the way, I'm the same as Tarsem. Ask me anything you want to ask. I could talk probably all day, but I prefer to talk about things that people want to hear about. So, questions or prompts, please direct us.
Shoot. Yeah, shout it out if you need the mic.
Yeah, the gentleman with the microphone is going to be running around a lot.
If not, guys, just shout it out. I got a good ear.
Hi, Brendon. You did the cinematography of Flight of the Phoenix, which was a remake of the old film, the original one. Again, you did for HBO the Westworld. So, while doing these remakes, do you visit the original productions to see how the cinematography was done?
For both of those, I had seen Flight of the Phoenix, the original one, years ago, like long time before I did the remake. I had seen Westworld, the feature film, as well. I revisited both of them just to remind me, but I'll be honest with you, they don't guide me in anything I'm doing for the next version, because to me, they're separate films, they're separate TV shows. If somebody wants to compare the original with the remake, they can do that, but I don't. And I don't, a lot of times too, I don't want to be guided by it. I want the freedom, because also too, it's a different director, and for me to bring stuff, what I would call baggage, is not helpful.
Come on, guys, some students go for it. Yeah, shout it out.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Vivek Orjikar. I'm a writer and actor. I would like to ask you what parameters you select for the selection of the script, and how you decide whether the script is meritorious or not. Can you just explore all the parameters regarding script?
Well, my take on script reading is quite different. The film that we just did, I actually went and got a book and had the script story written for it. And I told the event happened 23 years ago, and I spoke about it to the writer. And then in the end, it was about 40 minutes too long. And I had to come up with a way on how to chop off the beginning and the end, and you approach it like that. So that was something that I originated. And the other scripts, they're quite different. I've usually done visual films. And unfortunately, I used to always think that visual films, I would love to get a script that read fantastic on paper so that you can just go and make it. It was a folly. It didn't work. Because whenever I've done visual films, I realized the reason they get made is people will look at that and go, this is crap. It's really bad. But he's a visual guy, right? Give it to him. And somehow those movies got made. Now when I look at it, some scripts are phenomenal. And I go, this script I would like to make. People look at it, they can read exactly what it is. They say, this is great. No, we don't want to make it. So I don't know how movies get made. They get made because people don't understand them. They think you have a different take on it. So I read scripts with not that in mind. Is it a story I want to tell? And I'm the best person for it. And I approach each one of those with that kind of parameter. So every time the approach is different.
Story is the base. Story is the base.
Sorry, what?
Story is the base of that script, of course.
What is that?
Story is the base of the script, and script is the only written regarding the story.
Well, the best way to look at it, I look at the script as a great blueprint. You know, you can look at a blueprint and just know that is the building going to be great? I don't know. So you have to look at it as a guide, but that's not, if you're making a studio film, that's not the best answer. Because they want to know how commercial is it, what will it look like, well, then you have to make a lot of eye candy to sell people on what it will look like and where it will go, and you put together these visual packages, which now with today's AI, you don't read anybody. So for me, I just say that it depends on that. But the story in the end is very important to most filmmakers. I'd say the visual films that I do, probably not. I end up putting the cart ahead of the donkey and just say, this is the look I have in mind, and then we figure out something, sometimes.
Thank you.
But for something like Immortals, at least for Brendon, I told him that everybody was making comic strip books. And I just said I wanted to make a painting book. I wanted to make it look like if Caravaggio lit a set. And I only took, and I usually don't take comic strips and I don't take pictures of other films to the DP or to anybody. So for that one, I just showed him paintings of Caravaggio and a couple of people. I said, this has got to be the finger of God kind of lighting like this. And we go with that with the story. So that's to Brendon. I have to pass it on to show him we need to study paintings to go into that. So the script was kind of half there. The writers were very flexible and wonderful, and as we went along, which is the last thing you want to do in a visual film, because you spend so much money while shooting, you don't really want to think on your feet. So, but sometimes you just don't know. The cart and the donkey go a long way until one has to take off. So when we were doing the production of that film, I had the writers over. And as we were looking at scenes, and they could tell me, you can afford this, you can't afford this, you can afford this, you can't. And I take a very practical approach. I always take the Punjabi expression, you have to see, like, otherwise, spread your feet once you know how big your blanket is. Otherwise, either you're going to get a head cold or your feet are going to come out. So I always work with a parameter like that. I just say that, tell me how much you have. And if I can't afford this, I'm very flexible. And sometimes you should be and sometimes not.
One other thing just to add to that, don't forget, a great script doesn't mean a great film. And you can also make very good film with a very average script. So,
and vice versa.
Yes. So for the audience, like, the script is important, I think, to the filmmakers, but that's not what the audience are watching. So I think personally that you have to put yourself in the position of sitting watching the film, be an audience member while you're making the film, not afterwards.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Here's the guy.
Hi, Tarsem.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know what is the process of casting a cinematographer for a film for you, and what are the initial conversations you have with the cinematographer?
Only an Indian can ask a question like that, casting a DP. If you don't cast a DP, a beautiful question. I'll tell you what, we have a shorthand. Most of the people that I work with, I'm not the kind of guy that fires people or raises his voice on a set. So for me, for the DP, Brendon used to be the focus puller for my college professor, who was my cameraman. And as we started shooting over the years, the college professor and me kind of just reached an impasse. And Brendon was available on some of the commercials. We started doing commercials. That was the great thing about having a background that we do commercials together. So when you know that you can do the short sprints, you just have to time out and see, can you do a marathon with that person. So for me, the first time we tried something, it worked out very well. So for me, I've been working with Brendon for 25 years, and I think he kind of knows that we have a very small shorthand. So he was the only person in the film that we did right now in India. He's the only white person that I brought from outside. I love the Indian crews, but it was a real problem on when I need a shorthand to talk to somebody, and Brendon and me have that. And I just know that he has we had one conversation on this particular, the last one that we did. I just told him, imagine that there was a script written by Gaspar Noé or Haneke, and it got directed by one of the Iranians. So I want it to be very classic and flat, and there's going to be nothing. And I think somewhere in the middle of the film, we did one dolly move, and I went, you know what, it doesn't work. And we threw it out. So that's something you kind of back on thing. So it's much better now working with him. About 25 years, it was horrible for me to work with anybody in India, because when I used to get all my international crew here, they would just come to me. Everybody, every chotu, every sport boy, they would just come to me, ye truck kahan lagane hai ji, ye kahan. I said, I'm the director, talk to somebody else. He said, ye to gore hai. I said, doesn't make a difference. I'm the director, don't talk to me. And they come to me with all the problems. But it's all changed now. They completely understand the hierarchy. And when you go out there, he was still the star in the little print that we were shooting, because they hadn't seen a white guy out there. We were somewhere near the Amritsar border with Pakistan, and they just love coming up to him. But years before, the problem used to be that they didn't think that the white people were working for the brown guy. But now somehow the Indians get it, and it works beautifully.
And by the way, just on that, when I came to India first with Tarsem, we did bring the camera crew. It was a documentary type of shoot, but we brought the camera assistants. I think we brought a gaffer. We brought those people.
It was the cricket commercial with Nasir Fateh Ali Khan's Must, which was a Coca-Cola commercial. And Brendon came with me, and we just said, we're going to figure India out. And the idea of the commercial was just, they said, the color red, because Coke wasn't very big here, and we want to own India with red. And we just came and just said, okay, well, we put our eye to it. And Brendon...
Again, though, the point I was making was we had to bring crew here. Maybe we didn't have to, by the way, but we thought we did. Now I am very comfortable. Like the last thing I did with Tarsem in India, had an amazing experience. The crew were amazing, everybody. And by the way, in terms of, if it matters, and it does matter, the best catering ever on a job. The best food ever.
Shoot.
Hi.
Hello. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Amol Deshmukh here. I just want to know how do you pitch your script to your producer and production companies, and also I just want to know how do you deal with the budget? Thank you.
Okay. Two questions. I don't really pitch scripts. Usually the scripts come to me and they ask me if I have a take on it. And then I take the script, and 90% of the time I don't. And then if I have a script, I just say I have a very strong viewpoint. I would say 95% of the time people are looking for that. And I always say it's okay. And I tell everybody that you might not like what I might be wrong, but I'm consistent. I know what I like. You might not like it. So for me, I don't know how you would do that. So I just think if you have a viewpoint and it's different from the people around you and you get a break, take it. Because if you're going to make exactly what everybody else is making, all I can tell you is there's only 1.4 billion of us here. So if everybody's drinking from the same well, everybody's crap looks the same. So you've got to have a different perspective. I was just lucky that my parents were in Iran. I grew up in Shimla, traveled front and back since I was a child, grew up on films that the language of which I did not understand in Iran, just watching films that weren't dubbed, that just were just playing in Farsi. And I ended up liking only a visual medium. And just the time when I came out to work, everything was, music videos were coming out, the commercials were going, universally. So it was kind of the break at the right time. So let me go back to your question, which was, shoot again. Budget, oh really? Okay, I'd say budget, I go the other way. I'm very practical. I always say I'm like a glorified account man. I literally look at it and I just say, if you've got a budget, tell it to me. A lot of times, especially out here, I'm having that experience, which I will never let happen again, is that when I do it out here, I find at least, if it's a general statement from the one thing that I've done in India, is that they do not empower the right people. And that is horrible. You'll get a line producer, you'll get a distinct piece, and all those people are working for the production company again and again and again. I work with them and I go like, oh my God, he's really smart. But then he knows what side of his toast is buttered, which is just the production company he's working for. So you never get a straight answer. So I just said, next time when I come in here, I will bring my own line producer. Because you never know what you're spending on it. And you've got to find who that person is for you. So I just ask usually how many days can I afford. When I say I can afford that many days, then I will go with that. If it's something that requires a visual work, then the number is different. So I take a ballpark and then, to use the Punjabi expression, Thank you.
Hi, Tarsem. Hi, Brendon.
Yeah.
Vishnu here. I'm a cinematographer. I would like to know how you guys develop a visual language for a particular film, because you are a very visual director, and how it's distinct from your previous film. Like, all your films look different, and what is the process behind it?
Thank you for saying that. Sorry. Okay. Great question.
Can I add something onto it? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, on a film like Fall, you travel throughout the world and you shot in like many different top of
28 countries.
Yeah, 28 countries, and still it looks very cohesive. So, what went behind that?
Okay. For every film is usually different. For The Fall, that was kind of a project that I had that I just said, how do I make a language that I want to originate, which is not really the classic language of cinema, which is, you know, how you do the coverage, how you film, and all that particular one. I wanted to come up with a different style. The closest person to it probably is the Armenian director Parajinov, who does the opposite of what they teach you in film school. When you go in film school, they tell you, put the camera here, make sure the poles are going away, you understand the depth, you understand this. And this guy films like how the Rajasthanis probably do their paintings in miniatures, or this thing, which you take a place that has depth and you destroy it by doing the absolute opposite, by using telephoto lenses, by doing that. And I just felt like, oh, I actually am much more closer to that. And I wanted that language to be the language of the fantasy, but the hospital language to be really boring. So it was just supposed to be somebody's bored in the hospital, they hear a story and it blows their mind. So I just thought, how this person imagines, which is always true, that no matter how great a film, especially for a music video or anything, how much ever you do, is nowhere near as good as what a person can imagine. Not only that, especially for a music video, next time they hear the song, they can change the images, but you're forcing a particular image in their mind to say, remember this. And it's quite handicapping, but it is the piece today. With the songs, you have to have a particular image, and that's how it goes. So with The Fall, that was the brief, that in the hospital, it stays banal. When we go around the world, it is going to be a particular style, and no genre has been developed yet. The cowboy films haven't come out, nothing has been. So how does the person imagine that? That's why I made the film set in 1915 or 1819, just so that the person they're talking to has not seen cinema. How do they imagine it? Probably a lot different than if you've seen cowboy films and you've seen all the other films. So that was the brief I went with there. In the other ones, it's quite different. So with somebody like Brendon, I was saying, I chose Caravaggio, and I just said, go in this particular style. When we did Mirror, Mirror, I liked the trees. I think I was showing him Tarkovsky, because he has a particular great love scene in silver birch trees. I forget what they're called in Punjab, even they're safete. But they really look beautiful in black and white and not very good in color. And I just wanted to desaturate and make the snow and everything look monochromatic to pull the camera people out. So I just only very roughly talked to Brendon and showed him 1 or 2 films. And we have the same collaboration like I do with him. He's the production designer. I have a different one for the rest of the world and a different one for America. And he's worked with us back to back. So for him, for every film, the language is different. The film that we did right now, I just said, we need to be like we are observers. It's like literally, I don't want it to shoot like somebody shot it with their grandmother's telephone, but it should be like a CCTV camera in the right place. And has to work with that, and the actors have to perform in front of it, who are actually right now here, my 2 lovely actors. And they did all the performance, and it was one of those things that I couldn't cut. And I told Brendon this, that I never shoot these scenes. Sometimes when I look at a scene, I say, it's not working, but don't worry, I don't need this. I just need the close-up here and that. In this particular one, I just told him, if the medium shot does not work, we are dead. So the actors had to perform. Because the shaky cam and going like this, I can probably make that podium act. So that wasn't the style of it. So it becomes different every time. So to answer your question, I think that's, you reinvent the wheel practically every time when you try to tell that story.
And I'm just going to add to that. Just the last thing we did, one of the conversations we had was that we had to keep it simple so that the story was all that the audience were seeing, and we had to create a space for the actors and that they could do what they could do, and we didn't have to kind of fake the performance with close-ups, with whatever else. So we nearly always used 2 cameras, maybe just used one in the final edit, but that was it. Like, we tried to hide ourselves, just take the camera away and just let them do it. And we captured the moment as opposed to us directing the moment.
Usually that works with children very well also.
Yeah. So, but you know, it depends on, I think it's important to come up with a set of your own little personal rules for each film. And like there's many shots on the last film that would have looked stunningly, by the way, I think the film looks beautiful, but there was a lot of shots we just said, it's too nice, we can't. If this was a commercial, we'd probably win awards with it, but we can't shoot it because it's not the right language for the film. And we also agreed not to have much equipment. And generally, by the way, nearly any film that we do where there's exterior shots, rarely do we use lights. That's something that both of us like, not to use it. Just go with, choose the right time of day to shoot something. And that's another thing too about, part of filmmaking has just become nearly like an algorithm. That in fact what you're shooting is not the story, it's a call sheet or it's a schedule. So that if you want to say, can we move that scene from midday to late in the evening? No, you can't do that because then we'll have to put the actor on an hour's overtime or we'll have to pay an hour's overtime. So you're not actually crafting a film. Now if you're in a studio, that's different. Like for Immortals and for Snow White, Mirror Mirror, they were 100% shot in the studio. Like every single shot from both those films were done in the studio. So that's different. You can then control every part of the thing. You don't have to wait for the sun to rise. You know, you put it where you want and you shoot what you need to shoot.
And the thing that you're saying about the best shot isn't usually the best shot for the film. The DP has to give that up, and Brendon does it without blinking. I mean, I remember when I just came out from school, Fincher used to be our god, and now he's a very good personal friend. And we were trying to start a company. And when we had a chat, I had just broken up with my girlfriend, who really dictated my visual aesthetics. Until that particular point, I said they were really, really weak. And I was giving this talk at MoMA in New York, and I kept talking about how incredible she was. She put the camera, she always knows, I don't know where to put the camera. She was like this. When I finished the talk, when I later on had a chat with Fincher, he said, you and I both know. And he said this line, and later on I thought about it. I said, actually, no, I did not know. And I'm glad you said it. And his thing was, he said, you and I know that it's not about coming up with the best shot. It's about saying, okay, this is a scene that requires this many setups to shoot this. You get up there, the sun's going down, the clouds have come up, the actor's not coming out, somebody's doing a drama, the lawyers are calling you, and you go, instead of these 9 setups, I can make it with 5 setups. And you adjust accordingly. And then he said, this is not right for the film. Actually, 2 setups are enough. He says, those decisions are what makes the film. And I kind of agreed, otherwise, because I always thought I was a bad photographer until for the first time I was PAing on my ex-girlfriend's shoot. And when I did photographs, I realized I could take much better photographs than make movies. Because there is no boundary, you just look for the best shot and you shoot it. But the cameraman does not have that luxury. He has to shoot to put the story forward. If there's a very big ego, you'll have a massive problem. And I'd say this is the least ego you will ever encounter.
Just on that, I would much prefer to do, I mean, obviously we all want to do great work, but more important than my personal work is the film. I'd much prefer to do average work and the film be great than have a great looking film where nobody's interested in the story, because, you know, that's just a waste of time.
Shoot.
I am Mario Pimenta. I want to ask you, how do you deal with creative differences in the set? I am Mario Pimenta. I want to ask you, how do you deal with creative differences on set? What led you to your field and what is your motto while working?
भाई साहब हिंदी बोलते हैं आप? Creative differences as well. On set. Sorry, Mike. I never thought I'd have a problem with the Indian accent. Mwah! Sit down, my friend.
Are you talking about creative differences between him and me, or?
And I want to ask you about how you deal with the creative differences on set, along with each other, as well as what led you to your field. And I also want to ask, what is your motto while working?
You know what? What is my motto? Well, I don't think there is one. I think there's an expression that says any philosophy that can be put in a nutshell belongs there. So no, there is no one motto. You just have to do a billion other things that you go by the rules on, and they're a bit too many, and you need to be flexible. So first question was that.
By the way,
the difference between us?
but I'll give you one motto I have is, and I do this on every job. I can never say no. No, that's seriously. I don't think that's a position for any crew member to say no. You have to find a solution. Problems come up on every job. It doesn't matter how good the job is, how much money you have. You cannot say no. And I think if every crew member, and that includes production, just made it say to themselves, I can't say no.
I say no.
He can, yeah. The director can. But
it is true, because when you go out there, everybody looks at you and says, do you know the movie? And unfortunately, people can tell when you are in control. And if you go out there and you kind of like half in control and you open that can of worm and just say, okay, let's all have a discussion every particular time, it might take you about 20 years to make a 5-minute film. In the end, it's got to be a bit of a telephoto, not telephoto, tunnel vision. I prefer a one-person's vision of the film. But at the same time, this is not a medium like writing, where you can write whatever you want. It requires the collaboration of hundreds of people to get that out there. You have to get them to trust you. You have to get them to believe in you, that when you just say, lie down in front of the truck, they lie down in front of the truck. But if all the time you're crying wolf, it never happens. That's why probably I'm always told my shoots are the easiest and funniest shoots to be around, because there is no pressure for anything. Because when I say pressure is on, everybody wakes up. But a few times I went to other people's shoot, the tension was here. And I'm just thinking, what happens if something goes wrong? How do you tell them this is important? You can't. You've just cried wolf all your life. So for me, creative differences need to be solved before, as much as possible. Whatever you do, when you end up on a set, believe me, new problems will arise. And everybody will look to you. If you, I don't know how many directors there are in here, they'll look to you to say that, can you solve this? And if you can't, be honest about it. And the film that we just did right now, I couldn't afford to have it the other way. It just had to be in medium shots. So we went with that. So creative differences, if you've got with producers, you got a problem. So just solve that long before you get up there. If you get up there and you start shooting and your producer sees the film differently, you need to be in a particular place in the totem pole to say the producer doesn't matter. You're the financier, which is unfortunately a thing that I find very common in India, that a financier is exactly confused with a producer. The person who writes the check in the West is very different. He might not be the producer at all. The producer is the originator of the material, who knows more about it on anything. But in my experience out here, the person who writes the check just suddenly ends up being the producer. That's not particularly healthy. By the way, Sat Sri Akal ji, one of my line producers here. He's a gold of a man. Usually when you have any line producers anywhere you go, they are a pain in the butt. This is the only person whose crew I saw was ready to die for him, because you realize that he's just one of those people that whatever he says is measured and is wonderful. You will not find, I don't think there's another one like him anywhere.
No.
But if you find a person like that, grab him with both hands and don't let him go.
Absolutely. By the way, one thing about creative differences, there should be creative differences, but it's not a competition. I work with other directors, and sometimes, unfortunately, I feel I'm making good suggestions to help them tell their story, and I can see that their ego, they just go, no, I just did something recently, and it was a nightmare. It was like the complete opposite of working with Tarsem, and the film will not be good, I know that. It wasn't just me, many heads of department were making suggestions, all for the better of the film. But the ego of the director wouldn't let any of the things happen. And it's not a competition. Me and Tarsem, like, sometimes Tarsem suggests things to me, and I go, he says, this is the reference. Oh, really? You think that's going to work? And what we ended up doing, I'm talking about a specific thing that none of you have seen yet. I didn't like it at the beginning. By the end, when we talked it and worked it out, it really makes the film. It's one of those little signatures that is just right. And I didn't believe it at first.
And it is a tough one in a place like India to leave your ego outside, because it's the one thing that I'd said to everybody, that if anybody raises their voice on the set, I don't care if it's to a sport boy or anybody, I will call lunch. I only did it twice, and it never happened again. It's so bad for actors because action and now act, and that person is like, I'm supposed to be crying here, and it never works. So for me, I just said like stop it. And then the other thing that they all love is touching each other's feet. So whenever Mittu would come, then I started touching their feet. All the Jamadars that came, I touched their feet. I said like, do you stop? I'll stop. So I don't know if that's a ritual that goes on and on and on, but I just think the whole hierarchy thing, just leave your ego outside. It's got nothing to do with the film that you're making.
And on the, I think part of my job also, and everybody on the set, is to create an environment that's helpful for filmmaking, especially the actors. And I see it all the time. It's not just in India, it's everywhere. The crew are shouting, screaming, and then 2 seconds later, the actors have to do something very sensitive. Like, I don't know how they could do it.
I always thought that was probably one of the biggest problems there. And then the moment I was leaving, I saw some actor exactly talking about that. I think if you're kind of doing opera, if you're doing like a Hindi movie and you're doing the great stuff that goes on in Bollywood that I adore and love, if you do it like that, it's easier. If you're going to sit down and do something emotional and do all that particular one, you really can't take the whole atmosphere here and ask them to act naturally at the end of it. I don't know how they do it. I personally feel that they're probably the greatest actors in the world here because they still deliver. I mean, I worked with one, I think she has the beautiful eyes. I did one play, I think I did a commercial with her long ago. And no, I think it's Ashwarya was her name. Yes. I did one commercial. Literally, I was doing one thing, and she just came on. And you just go, there's all this shit going on, the 800 people behind me and everything. She was like, tick, and you're there. There's nobody else in the world. I mean, we used to get embarrassed as kids when we used to see those movies and see people, especially when they did Hindi movies abroad. We used to die of embarrassment when we used to think of these people like singing among the kabooters and driving in like in Trafalgar Square. We said like, what will white people think? And now I said, we don't give a damn. And you can see that difference when you see the Hindi movie guys perform. They go like, my heart's on my sleeve, like, oh, and you go, wow, yeah, they're great. So for me, I think that's a great atmosphere that India has. But there's a particular school of acting when you have to get emotional and do something that is not at this level. It's not 10 out of 10. It's going down to natural. For those people, there's a massive problem when you just say like, okay, and action, and they can't perform.
And another thing, nobody's asking this advice, but I'm going to say this. Again, put yourself in the place of the actors. And sometimes I think it would do everybody a lot of value to actually go to where they're sitting, if they're sitting here, and look at what they see. And normally, it's a whole lot of crew at the moment, looking at their phones, checking their Instagram. If you're trying to do something and you're looking out at all these people who literally, to me, don't care at all, they don't give a shit because they're on their phones, I think phones should be banned from sets.
I agree.
Like, they're a distraction to filmmaking. The crew aren't paying attention involved. They're not involved in it. Years ago, they didn't have phones, so they had to watch what was happening. And they would come up with good suggestions. They might even say to the director, are you sure you want that to happen? Because they're paying attention. Now, a lot of times, if you want to get a crew member's attention, you have to call them. I don't think I should have to do that. They should be paying attention. If somebody brought up a bill in the morning that banned phones from film sets, I would be the first person to support it.
We didn't really have that many phones on when we were shooting. We were fortunate. But you see, that usually the 1 or 2 times that I have gone to speak, because I speak in a friend of mine's class, but I never let it advertise before. We just go and I always tell them, put your computers away, because I'm going to look at your eyes and I'll know what you're interested in. And you can ask me any question that you want, but if you've got a computer open and you're researching and doing that, I'm not going to take a question. I'm not going to talk to you. So for me, I prefer this conversation. Shoot, there was a guy standing there for a long time. Sorry.
सर मेरे पास 2 क्वेश्चन है, एक सर आपके लिए, एक सर के लिए. सर जब
I don't speak Punjabi.
ये तो नहीं आ रही सर मेरा क्वेश्चन मतलब आया कि ਜਦੋਂ ਸਰਕਲ ਸਕ੍ਰਿਪਟ ਆਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਨਾਓ ਐਗਜ਼ੀਕਿਊਟ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਲਾਈਟ ਸੈਟ
ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਕੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਬੋਲ ਇਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲ ਰਹੀ
ਸਰ ਸਾਰੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ
ਅੱਛਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਦੇ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਸਰ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਸਕ੍ਰਿਪਟ ਆਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਜਦੋਂ ਸ਼ਾਰਟ ਨੂੰ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਲਾਈਟਿੰਗ ਸੈੱਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਪੂਰੇ ਦਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ
He's actually asking the technical question that if the first time they ask you, you come up with a shot near eye on a scene, what's the first thing you do when you go to light a scene? Is that right?
Yes, sir. First, light मतलब क्या करते क्या सबसे पहले जो आपका स्क्रिप्ट है उसके बाद?
You do. First, you have probably start with the child. Think about it.
Composition वगैरह सर composition.
The first thing I would do, well, generally this would be on most films, and you block the scene first with the actors, so you know what's happening. I've seen people try it the other way. I don't know what they're doing, and also too, I think it's incredibly disrespectful to tell an actor, okay, stand there, say these 2 lines, walk there, do this, pick this up, walk out. What involvement have they? They're monkeys at that point.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so block the scene, have a discussion with the director about what shots you think you need. Place the camera or the cameras in those positions and then start lighting, and that's generally now a lot of times when I write, like you're asking a question and you're forgetting I think a very important part. If we're shooting inside a house, when we arrive in the morning, I already would have had the electricians have the lights outside the windows because we know we need them. They're not in the truck. They're outside. They may not be in the exact positions, but they're close. I like coming onto a set, even for the blocking. When I'm blocking with Tarsem, I will already, or for anybody, I will have lights already in position. Because funnily enough, if you put lights up first for the blocking, actors tend to go towards where the light is. And the director also can see what it might look like. You get a free chance to see how it's working. I think we work very fast.
That's a great answer to that question. But to answer actually even one to take the lead from him, is that usually when I go on a set, that's not when we light the set. So what I did in this particular one or anything, I go there before and I tell the actors there is no camera, there is no lighting.
Yes, sir.
Work the scene out, and then we work with them and see where they go. And then I try to cheat a bit because I've done enough like cinematography to know that that's not possible to light and to help the cameraman. Then sometimes he'll come to me and go like, that's impossible. Then we try to maneuver them a little bit if possible, if it doesn't hurt the story. You get them in a place, and this is a handicap that you'll have all the time, which is the problem with multiple cameras. If you're going to shoot telephoto and tell somebody out there be natural, you say telephoto shot, and everybody you can make, they will be brilliant actors because they'll just be themselves. But if you're going to enter that space and ask them to create certain things, it becomes very difficult. You need actors for that. So for me, when we go out there, I just tell them there isn't one thing. So with the actors, when we did this, I took them to the houses. And I said, this is where that person lives. That's where this person lives. Stand out here. If you had to look at that person, what would you do? We did all this on way before we did any lighting. So Brendon came and I took him for a tour of those places. And I said, this person lives here, this person lives here, this is that particular one. Then Brendon's making notes that, okay, I can probably hide lights here, I can hide. And he's not telling me. I don't want to light for him and never want to tell him how to light. But I usually am two people's friendly person. I'm friendly to cameramen, I'm friendly to wardrobe. And so that's why my stuff looks visual. And critics hate it because story comes third for me. But usually, that's what happens, that we do it on, I would say, even before the text count.
Yeah.
We had already done the scenes before. So पहली चीज़ है कि उनको ना acting करने देते आपने acting करनी है कैसे करेंगे. And then I think, you know, in theater it's different. You know, there's upstaging, downsstaging, you let people act, everybody sees it. When you go with directing, the main job of the director is to know where does the camera go and how does it move and what do you cut with what. If you're just going to shoot it and then give it to the editor, you're not the director. The editor is the director. As Fincher says, you're the shooter. You're not the director. The editor is the director because he will find the film for you. I tend not to do that. There isn't much, I would say there's not a single shot that we didn't use in the film that we shot. I don't have much coverage, which is not a luxury you will have, as you asked, with your producers. They'll come on and say, like, ye bari shot karo, we'll get this thing, humne itni bari gaane laye, white shot karo. I don't know what they'll ask you. You want to get past that. So I just go and just say, this is all we need. I'm fortunately in a position where the producers aren't there and they don't fight me. And then Brendon comes in and he just says, if they moved a little bit here or this could happen. And then I think, can I get a second camera in? Because usually the problem with multiple cameras is when you put multiple cameras in, you've got all average shots and no great shot. You only need one good shot to tell it. And in the earlier days when we used to shoot just with one camera, it's like there's one director on the set, his guy goes on that camera, that's the shot. Don't shoot another shot. But now the technology is enough out there that you can probably sometimes get 2, 3.
And by the way, just I think it was Harris Savides who I heard say this first. He used to like the space, not. So he would light, if he was in here, he would light it as it should look as a normal theatre. And I think that's a good kind of philosophy to follow. Also, too, by the way,
brilliant one to bring up, because in Birth, when she's in the theatre, that shot is phenomenal.
Yeah, but I always try and see, and very rarely does it work, can I only use one light? How do you, because the more lights you use, in fact, the more problems.
And I like to see, can I take away even that one light?
Yeah, no, but sometimes too, and this is genuine, like if you go and see, especially in India, like a building, and there's just great sun coming in a window, like what that sun is doing, even if I have to recreate it, I will take my guide from the sun and just copy it. And I think that's what generally you're doing is, like the sun, that's why outside I don't like using lights. It's better than anything we could do. And sometimes you have to recreate it in the studio, which I take my guide from that stuff. But use less lights. Like one thing that, it wasn't just the gaffer, when I worked in India recently, they didn't understand, they thought I was making a mistake because I didn't have enough lights. And I knew that even if we could afford more lights, it would just slow us down. And again, part of my philosophy is the more equipment you have, the more people you need, the more difficult it is to get from A to B. You need the right amount of crew, but you don't need more. You need the right amount of equipment, but not as much, I think, as people generally think. And this kind of ridiculous battle happens always between production.
When we did The Fall, for that person's question, we were in a particular place where I think Tommy sent home. We had 28 people. We said, no, take one, take two, and all these guys were completely this thing. He sent 28 people away, and we ended up having 3 for 28, and it worked much better. So for me, Brendon is one of the best people for when you just go like, actually, just make the natural light work.
Yes,
and right now, there's so much more control in post also. But that doesn't mean that you don't like it and just have some producer decide, okay, now this is a new fashion, do this, do that. Have an opinion. And if you get to fight it out.
And by the way, one of the first questions I asked the line producer or the producers is, how much money do we have? I don't need to, I don't micromanage the money. In fact, I don't want to know about it. But just tell me, roughly. And then I say, okay, when we're going over it, tell me and I'll stop. So there's no battle. I will get rid of everything. I'll get rid of one, I can shoot with no lights, one camera, one lens. Now that might not get the director what they need, but I'm not going to fight about this. It's not my fight. It's like, my job is to try and shoot the film. If the producer says all we have is $10 or whatever that is, 100 rupees, fine. But it also, if a producer
it's a lot more.
If a producer hasn't budgeted properly, again, that's not my fault. And sometimes I see films that, you know, if it's a big action film, you need techno cranes, you need this. That's what you should have. They haven't allowed any money for this, and you just go, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, you can't compete with, like, you know, the style of the stuff that you like when you do the songs in India, which is really beautiful. There has to be a 3/4 backlight to separate the background, all that particular. It's just a rule that everybody likes now, so that when they're working out at a gym, they see these dances and it somehow seems to have the right contrast and it works. What are you liking for?
And by the way, I'm not sure if this is still part of your question. I think.
और लेकिन सर मुझे फिर भी help out किया आपकी question जो आप बता रहे हो अभी आप. मैं समझ.
It's okay, let it finish.
Are you telling me to shut up? No. No. I honestly think we all need restrictions. Like I think the worst thing anybody could say is to a director, to a DP, to a designer, you can have anything you want. Now what do? You've no excuses. You can have everything in the world. And I think you will probably take everything you can get and you'll fuck it up. I like restrictions. If somebody says, but I want them to be clear, I don't want games. I hate games that go on, especially between the crew and production. Just tell me the money you have and let's work with that.
And unfortunately, I found that very true here, that if you don't have the line producer that you trust and know, you're already bedded, because you will never get a real answer, and that's something that Indian bureaucracy is brilliant at. They have 20 layers of every time I would say, whose problem is it? It is, oh, let me find out. And that person has 5 other people responsible, and they will fire the wrong person or send the wrong person home.
Yes, sir.
It will always go on that you'll never get that answer. That's why if you get a line producer that you know, he'll know whose fault it is and make sure that person is taken out, because he'll bury everybody else. Acha, push it. Go ahead.
ਸਰ ਮੈਂ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਡੀਅਰ ਜੱਸੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਕਿਉਂ ਬਣਾਈ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ, ਤੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਦੂਜਾ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੇਕਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ ਫਿਲਮ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ, ਤਾਂ ਜੇਕਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਾਮੇਡੀ ਤੋਂ ਹਟ ਕੇ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਸਰ। ਤਾਂ ਇਹਦਾ ਹੈਲਪ ਸਰ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਟਿਪਸ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਸਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ, ਮਤਲਬ ਕੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ
ਫਿਲਮ ਬਣਾਉਣੀ ਚਲਾਉਣ ਲਈ, then ਜਾके ਗਾਣੇ ਵਾਲੀ ਪਿਕਚਰ ਬਣਾਉਣੀ। ਮੈਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਪਿਕਚਰ ਬਣਾਈ, ਸੌਰੀ ਸਪੀਕਿੰਗ English बोला के? Okay, ठीक है। When I explained to the crew when we did this particular film in Punjabi, I literally, when we did it, I told them this movie has no music. Not only that, it has no background music. It has nothing. And I explained to them the style of, the Iranian filmmakers. And then the best compliment I could have gotten was one of the crew members turned to me and he said, "You're not making a Punjabi movie. You're making a movie in Punjabi." Yes, he just said, "These films don't work there." I said, "Really? Does it look like I care?" I'm like, if you want to make what every other person with a telephone can make, then please go and make exactly that. But I just think if you want to separate yourself out from the froth that's out there, put something else out there. But maybe the answer is just that you make more musical and funny and bully films. They're also good. But then if that's what you want to make, that's what you want to make. If you want to make it different, I'd say right now the problem is not making different films. It used to be when we started about 15 years ago or something like that, because it was like the Wizard of Oz. Nobody knew that you remove this curtain, how do you make a movie? You got an explosion, you got something look good, and you say, wow, beautiful. But now anybody who has really an iPhone or any other phone can do that. The problem has become, how do you get eyeballs on it to see it? If that's your mission, if you are interested just in commercial cinema or what, you just be aware of it. Don't make a personal film for 20 million. And you're better. If you're making a personal film, but if you want it for everybody else, then make it differently. You have to just don't. You might be able to fool a lot of people one time. You won't get the money again. So be aware of what you're doing. I think it's not a show business. It's a business show. You can probably screw over people once. Thank you.
Hello, Brendon.
I get a clap for screw over people. Thank you.
Hello, Brendon. Sat Shri Akal, my name is Deepak Jain, and I'm a film school student. I know I'm going to ask you a basic question, but I think people need to know about it, as there is a confusion about it among people. So in India, many times I'm seeing that when you buy a camera, and when you buy a camera, and if you can shoot photographs and videos, then you start calling yourself a DOP. So how is there in your country? When do you call yourself a cinematographer, and when do you call yourself as a DOP?
When you have a telephone.
Well, no, it's not. It's a good question. And one of the things I always say to people, I own 4 or 5 guitars. I play it for me. I'm not a guitarist. And I would hate...
And he's very good friends with Goan.
Yeah, no.
He still doesn't call him.
But, owning something doesn't make you that. Now, when you call yourself a cinematographer, I'm not sure when that happens, because... and maybe it's other people. It's when other people call you a cinematographer. Like, if you want to work and earn money and earn a living, you can call yourself what you want. But when other people, like when they start hiring you, that's kind of probably when you become it. And I don't know, like again, on the same thing, that similar vein to what Tarsem was saying, if you want to be a cinematographer, you need to shoot stuff. That's what you need to do. You need to stop copying stuff. I think like emulating or copying stuff might be good to learn when you're a student. And I would encourage everybody to learn the rules of photography for one reason only, that you can forget about them. Like people ask me, when you're shooting, how do you work out? I never think about technical things. When I'm on the set with the director, I couldn't care less now. The only technical thing, but even I try to not take care of that. Like I fought to get a DIT. Does everybody know what a DIT is? A digital imaging technician? Which a lot of producers confuse with data managers, and they're not the same thing. But I let them manage the exposure. I know you're going to find this strange. That's when we're shooting digitally. If we're shooting digitally, I just capture the image in front of the camera. I tell them the stop I want to shoot at. If it needs NDs, put them in. They don't need my permission. I empower the crew. I tell the DIT and the first AC, make sure the exposure is correct. If you need to ask me something, do. Never clip the highlights and get the most exposure you can, and then I do the print or the grade later. But that's kind of it.
And also, I think your question raises a bigger issue to me, which is that people in India or anywhere always think that the grass is greener on the other side. Like, are they like really intelligent? They won't call themselves DPs there. Just like there's 85% fools here, there's 95% fools there. There's idiots everywhere in the world and about 5% brilliant people who will make the changes. So don't think that just because here people are silly in doing that, they don't do it there. Ullu wahan bhi hain. So you just have to get away from them and just know that there is this stuff everywhere. It's not, so what you do here, a lot of people there do the same crime.
I said this because in some foreign films I write photographer rather than cinematographer in credits. That's what I
Sorry, what? Oh, photographer. You're talking about director?
In some older films.
Yeah, look, are you talking about the titles director of photography, cinematographer?
Yes.
This is all rubbish. Call yourself what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Just as long as you get called by other people the same thing, it's okay. You're calling yourself cinematographer and they call you Ullu, you're Ullu. So just like
no,
yeah,
but it's about the work you do. Like I've seen people get upset because they wanted the title cinematographer rather than director of photography or vice versa. Like again, the word ego starts to come to my mind.
The only word I'm scared of is when they call you artist. That means they don't want to pay you much. No, leave art outside. Just write me a check.
Hi Tarsem, hi Brendon.
Hi. Where are you, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Zai Borkar. I'm actually an art director on animated films. I'm actually an Art Center alum, and so this is kind of a personal and professional question, but I actually moved to LA 16 years ago to go to Art Center. And I think like from the very beginning, it's like almost like if I brought my Indianness out in color or in a color theory class or something, they always said, oh, bring the saturation down. Oh, this combination doesn't work with this. So in a way, it was like a lot of training towards. I even worked in like many studios after that, and I feel like the aesthetic kept changing to, of course, like makes sense. They make films for America, and but now I actually made a conscious decision to move back. So 16 years later, I gave up a good job, and I moved back to Goa, which is where I'm from. And just when I got here, I got this really good opportunity to make a kind of like an indie animation, and it's about a very Indian topic. Almost universal, but very...
Shoot to the question.
Yes. So my question is, I'm struggling with trying to let go of that very slick Hollywood aesthetic. It's almost like struggle, and I'm trying to find like how to make this film here in India and make it more like, which feel more like being home. So I know that you made this film.
All I can tell you is, they say, "Dhobi ka kutta na ghar ka na ghat ka." So most of the people, when they go to one other place or something like that, you just think like I know all our life, and we used to go to England, they used to ask us, "Where are you from?" We'd say, "From India." When you were in India, "Where are you from?" "I'm from England." It's just like somehow everybody wants to belong somewhere. If you went out there, your vibrancy might have been too much for them. That's what I was always accused of. And I never even saw it vibrant. Have you ever been to an Indian wedding? There is just like they said, direct to 100 becomes illegal. You just take it until the graph just levels out on top. So for me, you just have to think, if that's what you like, it's okay. At the other end, if the people who are paying the bill are not going to pay for it, make that decision. Is it something you can make on your own? Make it. If you think that basically, I just have a rule that if it's something that you're making personal, it will be something that you can afford to do small. If you're going big, like I know when people, if you make 3, 4 million, 5 million, but we're not going to talk about numbers differently, but you can make the personal film. But if you're making 70, 80 million, you should allow other people to put a little milk in your coffee. But on the other hand, if you're like, making Oppenheimer or this thing, you've got enough of a track record to say, no, I'm going to make it for 100 million and nobody puts milk in my coffee. We're not in that place. I'm in a slightly different place than where you are. So I just say, figure out. If this is something personal, animators of all people, by the way, if there's anybody who's exploited more than anybody in the world, it's animators, okay? Then when the money's all run out, they go to an animator. But I just say, if you have to, figure out what your style is. And if it's not commercial, it's not commercial. When we were in school, I was a classmate with Michael Bay. And we both loved working with each other, hated each other's work. He used to always say, you'll be the guy who will be unemployed with a bag of art that nobody wants. And I just said, really, my work doesn't look artistic at all to me. I just think your work is shit and you think my work is shit. And it turned out there was room enough for both of us. So for me, I don't know. To answer your question, bring out yourself. If it doesn't work commercially, make a conscious decision. Fake it till you make it, or do it as a job. I'd suggest don't.
By the way, just one thing to add to that is you're conscious of, because you asked the question, you're thinking about these things. The most important thing is to do it. I think it's the biggest handicap, it probably happened to me in my lifetime, especially for film students, is that you think too much. And if you're thinking too much, you're not doing what it is. It's better to do it and move on and do something else. Doing, to me, is something that people should do a lot more.
I was told by that gentleman, when he does this, I'm supposed to do something and I've forgotten what it is. What do I do? And then okay, this usually means, like in our language, it means like I'm going to the toilet. But apparently here it means time out. When on a film shoot, that's what you do, time out and you go to the toilet. But okay, go ahead.
Questions?
I'm here, by the way, for the film students, when this is all over, you can hang out and talk till the cows come home, okay? I'll stand outside for you. So whatever this long is, you go ahead.
Hi sir, my name is Prakash. I'm from cinematographer from Kerala. So I would ask you a Brendon question. Like, what is the process you do for keeping your work, each work different from the previous one, or you simply follow the script because every script is different? So what is the process?
I don't consciously try and keep work different. I mean, I am conscious of, if I've done 4 action films in a row, maybe I should be careful. It's not me, but other people will decide that all I should do is action films. That's all you get asked to do. I personally like doing different things, like quite different things. So I like doing commercials, music videos, documentaries. Haven't done many music videos for a while, even commercials. But I think it's good to do different things. And this is part of the same thing as doing. Just do stuff, do different stuff. There's certain things I'm sure I prefer over other things. It's probably more about for me, it's a lot more about the people I'm working with. And at this point in my life, I don't want, everything doesn't have to be difficult. And generally, by the way, the last film we did was the most enjoyable film I've ever done, like on a set every day. It was easy. We looked forward to getting up every morning. It's the first time Tarsem has never been late once. Like every morning. This is how much I think it affected both of us. That it was so easy. Both of us were up early in the morning. The car never had to wait for us. And it's important to work with people that you know you can work well with.
And get paid for it.
Process for approaching the lighting and visual design, so you'll be doing a conscious effort for that. So how will it look like different from the?
You don't have to make it different, is what he's saying.
Yeah, I'm saying it doesn't have to be. But there's not much interest. After we did Immortals, I was asked to go for an interview for another film with a horrible human being. But it was another 3D film, and it was exactly the same type of thing. I wasn't even interested in going for the interview, but I was kind of forced to go. That had no interest for me, that film. Not like the person that was asking me I didn't want to work with, but the film itself, it was literally an exact copy of Immortals, and why would I want to do the same thing again? the only reason I can think of is I needed money to pay for bills. At that time, I was okay. So, and I just didn't want to do it.
And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes finance is what you need. You might have a kid early, you might have this thing, then you've got to make that conscious choice. I was lucky enough to not have kids till much later, and then one came along. But when that happens, you have to work for them. You just be aware of it. It's not selling out. And I remember they used to always ask me, did Michael Bay sell out? And I just said, like, no, he did exactly the same crap in his school and he loved it. It turned out to be much more commercial than what we do. You can't look at that and pull him down for it. That's what he likes, that's what he does. If that's what you like, it's one thing. If that's the paycheck you need, it's okay. But usually there's very easier ways to make money than go in the film industry and try to make money.
Hi, Tarsem. Hi, Tarsem. I just wanted to know what filmmakers or films influenced you in your film school days, and who are some of the contemporary filmmakers or films that you like, and just a few insight into why you like them, or just basically.
It's changed quite a lot. When I was in school, I was never really in India. I was never influenced by the masters. I never really saw any Satyajit Ray films. Never saw any other thing. I was exposed very differently in India. I don't know if I should say this in press, but this is what happened. To see all the movies that we guys used to see, I was in Hansraj College. We couldn't see the film. We used to hear about these films. So I didn't really have much of a background there. So what we used to do is near Hansraj, from old place, we used to get VHSs that just come out that time, and we heard all these films were available. So what I used to do was, me and 3 or 4 other friends, we'd rent a VHS, get all these films that we had to see, and we used to get one porno movie. And we used to put it out there and play the porno and charge everybody in the money to come in and see the porno. When they were done by a particular time, we had a whole night to see all these films. And those people whose films I watched, we watched them in the worst kind of small little room with 5 of us watching like Stanley Kubrick or whatever. You might get the story. You're not going to get a feel for what it was. They never really influenced me as much. When I went to film school and first time on cinema, saw something like Satyajit Ray, not Satyajit, more like Tarkovsky, it just blew my mind. So I was much more influenced there. Then over time, I would just say it's become much more like Haneke and much more like the Iranian films. They have now rocked my world more. But I was much more interested in La Jetée or something like that. But they all came from the school when I went there. So unfortunately, I missed the Masters of India because there was no access. Right now, I'm sure there's so many cinemas you can go to. You can watch it on YouTube. We just had none of these films. So I didn't really have an influence here. I just say I had it there, and it was much more visual. And fortunately for me, that's what everybody was looking for when I came out of school, because the natural step was do music videos so you can do commercials so you can do movies. I did music videos because I loved music videos. I did not want to do commercials. When I did commercials, which I still do 85% of my time, I love doing them. I don't go to do them to do a movie. I just consider myself, the line that I use is that I love this profession. I'm like a prostitute in love with this profession. I will sleep with people for free, but they give me money in my job. So I don't complain, but I love it. So for me, if you find something that you love, I think grab it on. If they pay for you, tip your hat.
Hi.
Another guy. Sorry.
Hi. So I'm from here.
Okay.
Hi. So I would like to.
How your shirt?
Thank you. So I would like to ask, like, you direct commercials and also feature films. So both as an aesthetics to it. So how do you manage to differentiate both of them?
Well, I'd say everything in life has an aesthetic to it. But if you're saying about film, what's the difference between commercials and films? I'd say it's the difference of a sprint and a marathon. If you can make many small things, in film, especially if you're making a movie, 1 + 1 should not be 2. It should be more than 2, otherwise you shouldn't cut. So in cinema, in commercials, you're making small commercials. If you put all of them together, and in the end, it's not greater than the sum of these beautiful shots, you failed. So for me, I found that the hard way around. But I would just say that they both are a visual medium. It's like saying, can you skateboard? Yes. Oh, so you're good at balance, now you can surf. Not necessarily. So you might be good at balance, but you won't go there. But this medium, you will understand. But now you're not alone. Until 15, 16 years ago, you were alone if you knew how to study that. Right now, everybody with a telephone has that. Everybody who comes out from any film school can have 800 commercials at their small reel or whatever and make them. Now the fight is, how do you get people's eyeballs on it? Please don't take that advice to start doing TikTok. But yes.
So, and your journey from India to Hollywood.
What was my journey from India to Hollywood? Ooh, okay, I'll try to answer it really fast. After I wanted to go and study film. I realized that when I was in college here, I couldn't get into engineering college. I tried everywhere, I could not get in anywhere. I got into Hansraj by lying and cheating. I graduated from there because my dad would not let me go abroad until I saw a film, until I had a degree in like commerce, business, or not business, commerce, or you know the Indians. You're a lawyer, doctor, Indian, or a jerk. So for me, there was no other category. So when I finally did this degree, did the degree in commerce, I was going to go to Harvard apparently. So I just basically lied all my way through until I arrived out there. All this because in Hansraj I went one time for a friend who was applying for a visa, and I saw a book, and it said Guide to Film Schools in America. And it blew my mind. Like most Indians, I just thought you went to school to study something that you hate and your parents love. But for me, I figured out, I was like, they teach this in school? I was like, this is like how to sleep with women. The teacher in college, I'm there. So for me, that changed my life. I got in the thing. All my thing was, I'm going to go to America and I'm going to study film. That's all I'm going to do. I geared myself just for that. So I went to Canada, called my dad and said, I want to study film. He just, I'm going to cut you off. You don't exist anymore. My uncle gave me $64 and one-way ticket, $64 in a Greyhound down to LA. I arrived in LA, went to every school. No school accepted me, including in Canada. When I was there, I went to every school, but no, because I was dressing up like as an accountant. I was dressing up in a suit and thinking and seeing these other students who were coming in wearing jeans, and I was just thinking, what a loser, you're never going to get into college. Turns out that's what they were looking for. I was the loser, and I never got into any college. I tried in every place possible, and then my uncle told me, Simon, he said, there's a college right behind me. Go and apply there. I applied there. They had 18 seats, and basically I think 28 people applied. We went in there. Out of the 18 seats, they said like 17 seats were given, but I didn't get it. They told me, don't worry, this is such a bad college. Most people don't show up, they go somewhere else. 10 people didn't show up, I still didn't get it. So my uncle told me, out of 28 people in a hit college behind my house, you are the 28th choice. You really think this is your medium? And I went like, wrong place. Caught the bus, went down to LA, applied to every college, turned down everywhere. The one place that I found out finally, it's called 101 now, I understand, which is when they teach you film for the first time. They go like, you're an idiot, this is the camera. I was 24 years old, I had never held a camera in my hand. I didn't have a clue. So I went out there and I wanted to go to City College. I found out City College is the place where you go. So the first gay person that tried to pick me up, his name was Randy Marsh. He went and registered because it was $2,300 per term for every foreigner, and it was $200 for every American. He registered, I showed up the first day in class, changed my name, and went to college as Randy Marsh. I was just thinking, show me, if there's anything that's useless in life, it's a degree in film. Okay, it means nothing, it's worth toilet paper. You need to go and shoot something. So I just wanted them to say, teach me how it works. I did something there, I got a scholarship, and I got into a really great university. In that university, I never wanted to come out. I loved college, I loved making experimental films, but real life, I had to get my career. And the first project I did out of school, fortunately for me, exploded, and it's been downhill since. Sorry.
Hi, sir. I think we've been cut off.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
If you're a film student, I'll see you outside. If you're a
Yes.
child harbor, let's go there.
This is all the time we have for this session, but I know we have unanswered questions from the audience, so please feel free to meet our speakers outside the lobby area. Please feel free to. I myself have an unanswered question. So I want to thank both our dignitaries for this wonderful session. Thank you so much. With a big round of applause. I'd like to thank International Film Festival of India and Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute for this session. We thank you, audience, for being with us. We hope you enjoyed
By the
this
way,
session.
before you go up, one thing, I did this one time before about 20 years ago, once in St. Stephen's and once in Bombay. And now I understand about 10 of your best filmmakers were there, and they told me that basically they came to the talk, they quit their medium and took up film. So I said either I really encouraged them or they just went like, if this fool can do it, I can do it. So hopefully some of you come and make me unemployed.
On that note, we thank you. I know we all learned something new. We hope to see you again for the next section. Thank you so much.